Welcome, everybody. We are back here for our next session. We feature two experts who have chosen to use Ascend for their data pipeline automation and data needs at Biome Analytics and Harry's. We'll discuss their experiences with Ascend, including their favorite features, how they got started, and what's next in their journey. I'm happy to welcome Seth Glickman, who's the CTO at Biome Analytics, and William Knighting, the Senior Manager of Business Insights from Harry's. Okay, here we go. Hey. Welcome. How are you guys today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Thanks for having me on.
Great.
It's good to be here.
Great. Awesome. How are you, William?
Doing well, Alex. Excited to be here.
Great. Well, why don't we start by just giving a little bit of an introduction. William, why don't you start with a quick introduction, and then we'll go to Seth.
Yeah. So, like Alex said, I'm William Knighting. I've been at Harry's now for about 3.5 years. I've been in the analytics space for close to 10, a little over 10 now, doing manufacturing analytics and SaaS analytics, now CPG with Harry's.
All right. Awesome. And Seth, I know it's live, so we have noise in the background.
I know, sorry, they just started doing, they could not have picked a better time for this. They just started doing some facade work on the building. So I apologize if there's any sort of drilling or whatever going on. But no, my name is Seth. I was at Google for about 9 years. I'm now at Biome Analytics, CTO. It's a healthcare company. Sarwat gave a presentation earlier today, which I would encourage everyone to check out if they are interested. That's sort of my background here.
Awesome. Okay. Well, welcome. So after, I guess the best way to start is like, how did you hear about Ascend? I'm always curious to kind of hear that, was it through something in LinkedIn that was posted or a conference or something like that? So maybe just keeping the same alternating, William, maybe you can start and tell us, how you found out about Ascend.
Yeah, I think for us, it started with really like a Google search, looking at like cloud ETL tools. We're trying to figure out different ways we could get some of our new retail data that we wanted to report on. We wanted to be able to get it into a warehouse. We wanted to stand up reporting, put a front end visualization, have dashboards on it, and looking at different tools that then would not only work for the job, but then also work with the skill set that we had on the team. And the fact that Ascend had a web UI that really like out of the box allowed us to start doing things like pretty quickly and getting quick wins was one of the things that definitely attracted us to it.
Awesome. Seth?
Yeah, so for us, we knew that we needed a new solution. And so we were doing a bunch of research, and I have a bit of more of a story to talk about that, but we did a bunch of research, and the CEO suggested that we look into Ascend, and we did a lot of digging around, had some great conversations with, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, so we knew we needed something new, and we did some work to find it out. Yeah.
Awesome. And maybe Seth, you could just kind of continue there, why you chose Ascend and what you saw once you were kind of made aware of it.
Yeah.
What made you decide, this looks like this is going to fit the needs of your company.
Again, I'm really sorry about this noise. I'm going to hold this thing as close to my face as possible. So just to set the stage here, just a little bit of background context. When I joined Biome a little over a year ago, we were at an inflection point. We had initially developed a set of SQL-based pipelines, which were functional for the assumptions that we were working with. So like early startup scale MVP type stuff that needed to get out the door as quickly as possible. We had just gone through a somewhat painful overhaul to migrate out of the SQL-based pipelines into a Python Panda sort of world. But the ensuing benefits seemed a little elusive, or at least they weren't clearly visible to everyone. And we had to get onto a really distributed solution, which means Spark.
Yeah.
We did some research into different platforms, and I'm so sorry about this noise. Ended up with two primary contenders: the Azure data factory, because we're an Azure shop, and then also Ascend. We did a trial to put together a small pipeline on both platforms to determine which was better to use, which one had better development processes, other potentially relevant features, and we obviously chose Ascend for a variety of reasons. Like first and foremost, Ascend has the features that we need, right? It does what we need to do. We're moving from this sequential virtual machine-based world where we are constantly running into issues of scale, processing backlogs, and other constraints that really are holding us back, into a world where we never have to think about these issues again. I love the features that Ascend provides out of the box. I don't want to call them table stakes features because I don't think most other companies offer them, but what I'm referring to here are not any of the really even advanced Ascend functionality, which we are looking forward to implementing in the future, but just the sort of the fundamental insight that pipelines are a discrete set of transformations consisting of data and code. And if neither of those inputs have changed, you don't have to rerun that transformation. It's super convenient to be able to query the records in a transformation at any point. And we've also gotten a lot of value out of being able to work with data sourced from different providers, getting it all in one place, et cetera. So that's Ascend the platform. And the other enormous draw for us is Ascend the company, and specifically the people at the company. From the start, everyone that we've interacted with at Ascend has been just extraordinarily friendly, informative, helpful. If we have any issues where we're not sure exactly how best to progress, they've just been right there beside us, helping us move forward. I would name names, but I worry that I will miss a few people if I do this off the top of my head. So I'll leave it at that. Level support was a huge factor in our decision. So yes, do you think that was long enough?
No, that was great. And thank you for the note
sure.
of our team. I think that's
no, it was a big factor. It was a really important thing for us.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that we're looking to make sure companies look at Ascend as more than just a product, right? We're data experts, as well as we're there to help you and make you successful, because obviously that's going to make us successful as well in the long run. So we appreciate the partnership. William, how about yourself?
Just a plus one real quick to what Seth was talking about, like the support, like really early on when we started onboarding onto Ascend and started like developing our first proof of concept case of how we wanted to use Ascend. The support, it was like a partnership, right? We had like weekly meetings. They were right there. If there was code issues, they'd be right there, like, QA in the code, trying to figure out troubleshooting at odd hours of the night. The end product messenger was like something we definitely relied on, like really early on, as we're trying to like stand up our first reports. And then just, the availability of the team is definitely something that factored really heavily into probably why we're still using it and why we've like scaled our use in it over time. But maybe to another point, like Seth made, what also like brought us there was kind of like, we have all these disparate data sources across databases, different like API endpoints, Google Sheets or something along those lines. And we need to be able to collect this all together and like have a unified reporting stack that we can, track the business KPIs, turn out quick deliverables for people across the org when they need reporting needs. And that's where I think Ascend really excelled for us. And it is like, it's probably not table stakes, because you're right, Seth. There's like not many people that do what Ascend has to offer here, but like the out of the box connectors to like the Google Sheet, integrating to Redshift, and then being able to like iterate like real time on the pipeline, not have to wait for something to go over to dev overnight or something, but having like real time iteration feedback on your work. Like that was really the drawing point. And then to the point what I was mentioning earlier, just like the low level, like the low barrier of entry for like analysts to go start using Ascend, developing Ascend. Like we don't necessarily need to have a traditional engineer background to go really just use the out of the box features. Then at the same time, like being able to host your own Python scripts, it allows, like, if you do have teammates who have those technical skills, you can still leverage them in the Ascend environment by leveraging like, the PySpark transforms that we have now. And, we do, which is beautiful. Yeah,
and we actually have a talk about that, a little bit about how analysts can get into the platform. It's just not data engineering, right? They can do that last mile if they need to do a little bit of the manipulation of the data or transforms of the data to get it right in the way they need it. They can have a little bit of skills and be able to do that. Awesome.
Right.
So the next part is, okay, you've selected Ascend, and William, your company's been a customer of ours a little bit longer, so you have to think back a little bit further than Seth. But when you got started, what would you do differently if you look back? Like, what was kind of something that you would have kind of talked to yourself back then and said, if we're going to do this again, I think I'd take this type of approach.
Right. I know, that's fair. It's hard to say. Honestly, I think when we came onto Ascend, I think it's almost like 3 years now, right? We were in like such this like we need to build now mindset, right? I felt like there was this backlog in queue of like reports and insights the business wanted, and we couldn't deliver them right with our current tool set and our skill set. Like we weren't really able to churn out the reports at like the speed the business needed. So when we onboarded Ascend, we were, probably rightfully so, in a build now mindset, right? I think as we've now matured a little bit using the tool, we've kind of been able to leverage some of the more existing like engineer practices like version control, being able to like leverage the Ascend CLI to kind of have that traditional development path where you're able to kind of go have a development mode where you can play around, and then have it behind version control, and then be able to deploy that to say a production data service. So the advice maybe I'd give myself, the three-year younger me, would be get that GitHub set up a little bit earlier. That'd be mine. Don't put that in the backlog too many sprints, but
that's good advice.
Yeah, and that's that is common, right? Because usually when people come to us, it's not like they're like, okay, I'm going to get this this platform, I'm going to learn it, and then eventually I'll get a data pipeline I need to create. Right? It's usually you're buying it because you're getting pressure to get it done, right? And be able to do that. So that's not uncommon, but to the point of getting that set up earlier, it does benefit you in that perspective. So Seth, you're a little bit more recent. What are kind of your thoughts on where you are today, but what did you do differently?
Yeah. A lot of that sounds very familiar. Also, just to echo some of what William was saying. So yeah, we had a set of pipelines, right, that we need to move into this new world. And so we're using Ascend for that, and also some ad hoc sort of data exploration and reporting. So I'm looking forward to actually seeing that later panel discussion. That'll be interesting. And once we get these all onto Ascend, we can start to like explore other bottlenecks. But in terms of what I would have done differently, it's hard to think of too much that I would have done differently. I think that the biggest thing so one of the things that we did before we really started with Ascend was we did this exploration trial period, right, with Ascend and with Data Factory. And in retrospect, I probably could have ended that earlier. I probably could have said, we have enough information at this point. I wanted to have a complete sort of but we could have started earlier, I guess, is the only real thing that I would have done differently in retrospect.
Okay, great. So now you're kind of looking back at that, give us a sense of where you are on your journey and how you're using Ascend, but what's next, kind of looking at where you are in that journey and the next thing. So
to the point of talking about the version control, and would have done that earlier. I think we're kind of in that process right now where we're leveraging the V2 templates that it came out, I don't know, not too long ago, right? That for the Ascend CLI, that's really made our lives a lot easier, integrating it with GitHub, using Git actions for deployment. I think for us, right now, we're kind of in a migration stage. We want to be able to get our most important data flows, our most important data sources behind version control, have that level of security around it. I think scale wise, we've been able to explore a lot of different read connectors throughout, hitting different databases. I keep bringing up the Google Sheet one. That's one's a lot more common than one would think. And then also the ability to write your custom Python script to where if there's not an Ascend connector that's already made, you have the ability to write Python and then go grab that data however you see fit. So probably, cleaning up that a little bit and migrating that behind version control and establishing a more rigorous process as more analysts on board to Ascend and do development in different areas of the business, just how the teams work together, how we think about keeping that dev environment and prod environment up to date and working as people develop along different parts of the branches. So that's where we're at now.
And just to add to that, William, can you share some of the data that you are processing through Ascend and how that's impacting your business? Of what kind of use cases?
Yeah, so I think for us, primarily it was kind of a retail data sprint that brought us to Ascend. So traditionally, Harry started out as a DTC business, so direct to consumer, selling online. So we had a lot of those traditional data pipelines set up, right? From, when you sell something on the website to coming into your traditional database, and we would go dump in the data warehouse, and we had our transformations, and we had a front end tool on it. When we started selling at retail, the data sources we needed to report on were disparate. There are in a lot of different places. The formats and the availability of that data differed, quite a bit based on the data source. So being able to have like like using kind of the traditional data engineering tools we had before wasn't going to solve the issues we needed to be able to stand up reporting quickly. So being able to bring in that retail data and then be able to grab it with other parts of like different data around our business has allowed us to like really move quickly on like driving insights, understanding what's going on, not only with our business, but, you know, along like the market and everything else in terms of razors.
Awesome. Great. And I shaved a little bit this morning. So.
Just for this. Thanks.
yeah. Yeah. I looked much different yesterday.
Look great.
So, how about you, Seth? Not about the shaving, about the
well, as you can see, I've shaved all that recently. So sort of what's next on the Ascend agenda for us?
Yeah, just and how you're using the product now.
So we're using it for like I said, we're using it for the pipelines. We're also using it for ad hoc data exploration. I want to expand both of those use cases at Biome. There are plenty of other things that we need to improve. So for example, we have the pipeline input is stored in a very old MySQL server. It's a slow and expensive process to pull data out of that. And then the pipeline output ends up in another MySQL server. So like we have to improve that. But within the Ascend world, there's also a lot that we can like dig our teeth into. You know, there's a famous Knuth quote. It's premature optimization is the root of all evil. So I'm excited to getting to a point where we can start optimizing, because we haven't even started down that route. And there is a lot of, I mean, there's all this tooling that we can take advantage of to see where the bottlenecks are within the pipelines. There's other features that I'm really, really excited to start using to some real degree, like partitions and stuff like that. But yeah, that's sort of where we are right now.
Okay. And you mentioned, and when you mentioned partitioning, is there something else specific, maybe something you're looking to attend in this summit, or some other things besides partitioning that you're looking to, or maybe it's even further edge where it's things we're about to release that you're excited about? Anything like that you want to?
There's definitely a couple summit talks that I am keenly looking forward to watching and around partitioning, because again, we're not really using it right now. I know that it's going to be a huge deal for us. Yeah, those are the biggest things for me right now, at least in terms of the immediate future. Okay,
great. And William, how about you? What features are you excited about? You've kind of gone past that stage that Seth's in right now, a little bit further along, and now maybe looking out at some of the things that we're starting to announce. Is there anything that kind of catches your eye that would help Harry's?
I think for us, it's probably leveraging the Ascend CLI more than we are today. Taking advantage of like the flexibility and just being able to like maybe automate some more of our data quality tests across different pipelines when we're moving stuff around, being able to do data checks in an automated way. That's kind of where my mind goes to, like getting more into like the CLI, trying to automate that more, automate some of those workflows, and then also really like make sure we have a good, smooth process for development that allows analysts to come in to like traditionally develop through like the web UI, being able to download the data service using the CLI, upload that to a GitHub repo. You have your PR requests, have like that traditional engineering workflow, and then taking advantage of Git Actions now with the V2 templates that allows like the automation of you being able to point one data service to another so much easier now, and taking advantage of that and having kind of that traditional dev to prod workflow. That's really where I think our focus will be on for like the rest of the year, and even probably onwards with thinking about taking advantage of more like the CLI functionality.
Okay, great.
There is one more thing I forgot to mention earlier, and this is not a super well-formed thought, but it is something that I've been thinking about a lot. There's I've taken like one class about like wine tasting, for example, and part of what you learn there is you just learn a vocabulary that lets you think about it differently, right? Like you hear all these crazy notes in the wine, you're like, that's not there, that's nonsense. And then you're like, oh, if these are things that actually are possible to be there, maybe I can start noticing them, maybe I can start thinking about it that way. And the shift into Ascend is just going to be such a dramatically, and already is, it's such a dramatically different world that it is a new vocabulary for our developers, right? It is a new way of thinking about things. And I'm really excited to see what we're able to put together just in terms of like creatively coming up with new use cases that just were not that they weren't on the table. They weren't even in the same like room or anything, right? They weren't even conceivable. So I'm really excited to see what this new vocabulary will allow us to even consider, to even start talking about.
Yeah.
So that's again, a little bit hazy, but that's something that I think is probably real and I'm really looking forward to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go a little bit off script. I have another question I was thinking of during the conversation. So I think both of you are running on the Spark data plane right now. That's, if I'm right. Maybe William, are you considering looking? The answer may be no, but are you looking at another data plane like Snowflake or Databricks or BigQuery or something like that? Is that not? That doesn't. You don't see anything.
This won't
right
be
now?
this won't be the right climatic answer here, but no, I think for like the Spark wise, we're really happy, like really happy with it. Yeah, when I think about all like the work and the projects like we're pushing through with Ascend right now, I just like I couldn't imagine like getting off the Spark is like something like we would be thinking about anytime soon.
Yeah. Okay. And Seth, I know you're pretty new, so it's probably not even
we're
on the
in the
radar
same
right
boat.
now. Yeah, just looking to be there. Okay, great. So maybe to then kind of go to the next thing as far as, is there any tips that you might have for companies getting started? Like, we talked about what you would do differently. It's kind of the same question, but maybe a little different, that you'd look at it from an angle like what's the key things you should focus on at the beginning, and might be a little bit of a repeat of the other things, but I think that's okay as well, just to reinforce that. So Seth, do you want to start there?
Sure. Yeah. So I'd say maybe even a step earlier than that, if somebody who's watching this is on the fence about getting started, I would say definitely give it a shot. The free trial was pretty generous. And one very reassuring thing for us personally is that the code that we did put together during that trial was Spark code, which is very easily transportable to another Spark platform. So like we verified that we were able to run an Ascend pipeline that we had developed on Data Factory without a like migraine-inducing amount of additional overhead. So I would say definitely, give it a try earlier rather than later. Don't be afraid to start that. Other features, I would say, just like William was saying, the CLI is really critical to our workflow. It's obviously possible to get huge value from Ascend without using it, but it is really worth thinking about if you want to store your data services and flows in some sort of source control. So just, definitely would say get on that. And then I guess the other thing that I might recommend for people to be aware of is some of the features that Ascend provides might not be all like immediately obvious. So like I'm specifically thinking about the built-in connections to things like JDBC, ODBC, or Tableau or Power BI. These connections, like, they might allow the use of data tools that you or your team.
Is that us or is that Seth? We'll give Seth a second. Oh, he dropped. So it's you and me, William. I'm sure Seth will join us again. First glitch on our track. So well, so how about you?
To what Seth was saying earlier about, it's kind of like the wine. As you start doing wine tasting, you like learn the notes and everything. I think definitely it's roll up your sleeves, get in the platform. I cut you off, Seth, if you want to jump in, but in short, is to kind of like roll up your sleeves, get in the platform, build your first proof of concept. Everything like I agree with Seth. Like it's a great thing to get in that CLI and the flexibility that you can have once you start kind of transitioning your workflow there. But just out of the box, the stuff that you can do in the web UI with pre-built connectors from different data sources, you're able to use like your traditional SQL, right? And then also like touching on like being able to hook up to Tableau, we quickly did that and we hooked up to Looker. It was our use case, and we were able to turn out like reporting just as quick as you could go. By that, just being able to have like Looker at the end of your data flow to go surface whatever data set that is and provide that to your end consumers. So definitely build, put it in source control, but build.
Yeah, and Sean mentioned in our keynote at the beginning, for those that were able to attend that, we expanded our connectors significantly. So if you've been a customer for a while and you have some other sources you want to tap into, revisit our pages and talk to us about that, because we do have the ability to connect into a lot more standard systems if you need some standard integrations and stuff. So that definitely ask if you've been a customer for a while. Seth, I think we lost you kind of midstream there.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No problem. Do you have any? I don't know if you.
It sounds like the last thing I was saying did come through, where I was talking about the different
Yeah.
connections and being able to use tools that you already know and are comfortable and familiar with.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so I've run out of the actual questions. We're a little bit early on that. Is there any other things you guys can think of that you'd like to share or even ask each other, right? That might be of use to people.
I think just on like the iteration and like the real-time feedback that you get by using Ascend, and like for us anyways, the real-time iteration of like the way you're able to build and be able to push that and have like reporting and like the same type of workflow. Like I don't think it can be like understated. I guess like it was a huge benefit, a huge unlock for us to be able to like just quickly turn around reporting, quickly turn around analysis, and really be able to kind of like self-serve ourselves the data, right? Using the existing connections, and then using your basic analytic tool set of like SQL and Python. Like it was really able to just give us like a big boost of speed on deliverables for the company.
Okay. And I guess one other thing from my perspective that I forgot to mention earlier, it was important to us. So our company deals with healthcare data, which is like particularly sensitive. And so it was really handy that the Ascend, product is installed on our cloud, right? It's on our Azure infrastructure. It's in a different subscription. And it's just like, it makes that whole process way simpler for us. I think you have a hosted version of it as well, right? Or are you not doing that anymore?
Yeah, we're rolling out something that's called, it's kind of a shared cluster offering called Cloud Offering. And it's actually teams if you have a smaller team working, or the cloud that if you have bigger teams and need more processing. There's some limitations to a team of 5 or less people with certain concurrent jobs. But that actually does a shared cluster type environment now. So we actually offer that. I don't think it would necessarily apply to the healthcare that you'd be
definitely
wanted to use the shared cluster of processing there, but that is one of the offerings we do. We currently still do send dedicated hosting, but that's not really the core of what we want to be in. We want to kind of look at that. How can you be in a cloud environment with that shared cluster and expand it, especially for companies starting out? And you can offer better price points to come in, but when you actually get to a certain point, you can also migrate into a dedicated environment, if that makes sense, as you grow as a company. So
so that flexibility was really important for us. Having that option.
Yeah. Awesome. I did think of one other question, and it might be more of a marketing than necessarily something that you need to respond to, but we've been doing a lot of different articles on things. I'm hoping that that's getting out there. We did a concerted effort to kind of share some of that knowledge in the articles about things like data products and some of the things we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to be partnering with Michael Lepich to actually talk about that later. Highly encourage that, but do you have any feedback from, we talked about support earlier, but anything about the documentation or any articles you read, anything that's kind of piqued your interest or things that you've seen?
I mean, just on the
documentation, we
use it all the time. Yeah, we use a lot because we're doing the CLI, right? So there's some documentation around how to use the CLI, and part of that gets back to the support point earlier, where it's just like extraordinarily helpful. That communication has been great.
Right. Yeah, and we're looking to expand. One, to have a knowledge base so people can start posting things, but also a community. So you guys can post things and hear from other customers as well, and kind of say, hey, it would be great if we could do this. And if we see a lot of customers are interested in that, that could be something we can add into our product roadmap. So we're starting to evolve a little bit as a company to get into those areas as well. Awesome. Okay. Is there any other points you guys want to end with? Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. I'm going to give it 2 thumbs up.